How's it going, fish folk? Those y'all new to the channel here, my name's Austin, and this is Fintastic Freaks, and this, surrounding me, is the fish room. And speaking of fish room, yeah, that's exactly what this video is about. We're going to take a full tour of the fish room down here and all the inhabitants it holds. As you can tell by the various sizes and various tanks placed throughout the room, we have a lot to go through here. Tanks ranging from 10 gallons all the way up to 510 gallons with over 100 fish here and over 1,800 gallons total down here. We got a lot to go through, so grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite drink, and let's see some fish. The first tank we'll start with on the tour would be probably one of the first tanks, if not the first tank you'd see if you were to walk down here, and that is my 240-gallon community aquarium, where we have various rainbows, various types of gouramis, some silver dollars that you also see swimming around in there, as well as some bottom dwellers that live down there, along with roseline sharks that for some reason like to swim down there as well. Among the multiple rainbows that we have in here, trying to remember as many as I can here, we have some Millennium rainbows, which you'll see the red one there. That one right there next to him, swimming that right under him actually, is a zigzag rainbow. We also have some Kamaka rainbows, the blue ones with a little bit of silver and the stripe in them. We also have an Australian rainbow. In front of him is a Port Moresby rainbow. We got some turquoise rainbows in here as well that look very similar to the Kamakas actually. You can see one of our Bosemani rainbows here starting to make his way to the front. Actually a couple of them in here. We also got some Madagascar rainbows, which you'll see up here towards the front. We also have some Goiter River rainbows in here. And among that, we also have some gouramis, including a blue gourami, which you see back there. We also have some opaline gouramis, one of them swimming towards the back there. It's actually towards the middle of the tank. This tank is 2 feet wide, so there is a little bit of depth to this, especially for these guys. We also have a small group of Colombian silver dollars, 5 of them to be precise. They currently live in this 240-gallon tank, although I am thinking of moving them to a new tank later on. More on that later. We got the small group of roseline sharks, 6 of them to be precise. Back on the gouramis, as you can see towards the back there, we have a pearl gourami, a few of them actually, as a couple of them. You see another one up here towards the front. Along with the pearl gouramis that you saw earlier, this golden yellow beauty here that you see is a honey gourami, one of my favorites. There's 2 of them in here in total. Been thinking of maybe getting 2 more in here. I like the opalines, I like the blues and the pearls as well, but gotta tell you, that yellow with those honey gouramis, it just it adds a little something to this tank with all that other color swimming around. The gouramis, the silver dollars, the rainbows, all just add all sorts of different splashes of color, which from day one as I started setting up this tank is exactly what we were going for. And while you won't be able to see him very well because he doesn't come out very much, you can see his nose peeking out of the log there. That is the front part of a black ghost knife. He's a little over 1 foot long. I think last time I measured him, he was just about 13 inches, so we'll say he's 14 now. You can somewhat see in there, they have that amazing little bottom fin that just moves in a ribbon-like fashion that makes this such an alluring fish. It's too bad they like to hide though most of the time, because when they come out and swim and they get that bottom fin going, they are a truly beautiful fish to watch and just do their thing. Hiding in some of these spots here behind either the sponge filter, maybe in that little tree root as well, or in here between the rocks and the wood. They got a couple of hiding places here, as you can see. We also got some clown loaches. We also got some albino bristlenose plecos. We got a dojo loach in here as well. If you look closely there on that rock, you can see one of the plecos right there. He thinks he's hidden, but we can just barely see you, buddy. Next tank we'll look at is one of my bigger aquariums in terms of gallonage. It is a 75-gallon hex aquarium that is home to about 10 little pea puffers. You can see a bunch of them swimming around up there. A couple of them are more down there. You may not be able to see a few of them, but a couple of them are down there hiding in the wood. They can blend in with that pea gravel there pretty well there sometimes, especially when they're deep in that wood back there. But initially I had more than that even. Unfortunately, when I got a whole bunch of them initially, we started out with about 25-ish or so of them. We ended up battling some sort of little disease or infection, and fortunately now it seems like it's gotten under control here. It's also melted down a little bit of our Valsinaria as well. Fortunately, our crypts have come along quite a long way here, fortunately. Some point I do want to go ahead and put some more in here later, but want to make absolutely sure we got all the bad stuff out of the water here. But these guys that remain are looking pretty good. They got plenty of space. This hex aquarium from parallel panel to the other parallel panel is about 30 inches or so. So still pretty good footprint for a fish that only grows about an inch, inch and a half here. At some point, definitely gonna reload this tank up here again. So it looks like its former counterpart, as you see here. If you wanna see what it looked like earlier there too, you can also click up this little video up in the corner. There may not be as many of them now, but this is also why I love pea puffers. They don't school like a tetra or a barb per se, but they still like to swim in little clusters, or shoals as the technical term is. And just seeing so many of these little bitty guys with such big personality, because just like any other puffer that can grow a foot or anywhere in between from the inch or inch and a half that these guys grow, it's the same thing. They're coming to the front of the glass. They're such a curious little critter, and frankly, they're fun to keep. Right next door to the murdered bean mansion, to the left, is a 38-gallon tank home to some more puffers. Specifically, 4 Amazon puffers. Or some of you guys might know these guys more commonly as South American puffers. Both names are actually pretty common though. 2 of these Amazons I've actually had now for, well, about 3 years here now. Unfortunately, a couple of them I lost about a year ago to a power surge. So 2 of these were recently added. At this point, I think it's been about 6 months ago or something now. But they have definitely grown bigger, and they've actually almost been catching up with the other guys here, which I'm not sure how. They all eat about the same. They're all pretty good size. They're all about 3-ish inches now, which for most fish that size, a 38 that's 3 feet long wouldn't be a problem here. But these guys really like to explore, so I am thinking maybe down the road here soon, I might give our 4 little Amazons here and upgrade to say like a 55 or maybe a 75 depending on what we get here. You'll also notice that we do have a little bit of algae growing up on the wood here. Initially I was trying to fight that a little bit. I didn't like it too much at first, but honestly it's just how it's kind of grown on the wood, and really it's kind of leaving the sand alone here. So I know some people think I'm crazy here when I say this too, but I kind of like the look that it kind of gives the wood here. Just a little bit of mossy look on here, kind of gives it a little more of a natural feel. And we still got some wood here just showing its normal self here. And yeah, I kind of like the hair algae look on here, so I haven't really been trying to fight it that much. When we move these guys onto a bigger tank, which obviously we'll have a video down the road here once we get to that, thinking I might keep it. Hey, yes, believe it or not, I am interrupting my own video. There's some irony in that somewhere. But wanted to go ahead and before we continue with the fish tour, let you guys all know that Fintastic Freaks now has its own merch store. If you're interested to kind of see what we got for merchandise here for the channel here, you can go ahead and click the link. It'll be in the description below there. I'll also put it at the top of the comments here as well to make it easier for some of y'all. Alright, enough self-advertisement. Let's get back to the video. Next door to the left of the Amazon puffers is a 55-gallon tank where we house about 10 Exodon tetras. And while there are a lot of different kinds of tetras out there, some more recognizable than others, this is easily one of my favorite ones out there. While unlike a lot of other tetras, this is not one you want to go ahead and put in a community tank. In fact, it's probably the last tetra kind you want to put in a community tank for that matter. They are still as active as any other tetra out there, and if you really want a cool show, just give them a cube of bloodworms. Is that not cool or what? I mean, there's a reason why these guys sometimes get nicknamed the Exodon Piranha. Continuing to the left of the Exodons this time, we have this 50-gallon Pentagon home to this guy. A little 3.5 inch Bumblebee Oscar, who is up towards the top as he is begging me for food. This little Bumblebee Oscar currently lives by himself inside this 50-gallon Pentagon. Has for a few months at this point, probably will for at least a couple more here yet. But we do have a tank upgrade in mind for this little guy that's going to suit him just fine, that we're currently working on, that we'll see here in a second. Oh, look at the color on this guy. Just the black, the yellow, and all that. Pretty easy to see why they're called a Bumblebee Oscar, right? As a good number of you already know, of course this 50-gallon Pentagon will not serve as a permanent tank for an Oscar. It'd just be way too small, frankly. But not to worry, as we do have an upgrade in the process here, namely this 185-gallon bow front aquarium. It is 6 feet long. The edges are about 19 inches front to back. The peak of the bow here is 25 inches. So overall, it'll serve as a pretty good footprint for an Oscar. Thinking we can probably go ahead and add another one in there, as well as the silver dollars that I mentioned there earlier. Of course, a lot of people match those together there. And thinking that now that the fish are getting bigger, this 240 is getting a little crammed too, so I'm thinking maybe moving the 5 silver dollars out of there. Well, maybe it won't get rid of the total clutter from the 240. Would look pretty nice with the Oscar over here and the 185 here. And not only open up some space in that tank there and just get rid of some of the clutterness, but create a beautiful looking aquarium in here. And who knows, we might go ahead and add some sort of large bottom dwelling fish there later on there. But more on that as this plan comes more and more to fruition. Next to those tanks stands the biggest tank in the entire fish room. This monstrosity, a 510 gallon plywood aquarium. And there you see the king himself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mac, my Maboo pufferfish.
Gentlemen, the king!
As you can see him looking down at the floor, he's looking for some snails. Joining him inside this tank also, though, we have about 4 dozen total tetras, 2 dozen cardinal tetras, and about just shy of 2 dozen brilliant rummy nose tetras also dashing through the whole tank here. Towards the back there you can see the newly added mangrove roots that kind of help make up the scape here. I also got a piece of Malaysian bogwood, I think that's what that is, drifting on the top there, trying to soak it in water here to get it to sink. We'll probably try to put it in one of these other tanks here, probably the 185 here once we get that thing closer to being set up here, but otherwise just a ton of crypts here. And this little Maboo puffer, I tell you what, his appetite is growing about as fast as he is. When I got this guy, he was just barely an inch. Fast forward to today, this guy now is about 8 inches. He initially grew about an inch or so every month and a half, and feel like that growth spurt is starting to catch up here now as he's starting to really get close to push 9 inches here. And before too long, he's gonna make a run for the biggest fish in the fish room, which, as we all know, since Maboo puffers can grow around 2.5 to 3 feet, he could very likely be on his way here soon. And while these tetras do add a good splash of color and activity to the tank here, they're not just here for a little extra show here in the tank. While, as we all know, puffers can be pretty messy eaters here. You can tell so by the graveyard of half clam shells that are still laying on the ground there, as well as some snail shells as well. You know what, actually, instead of explaining this, you know, a video is worth 1,000,000 words, so let me just show you. Here's the puffer.
Wow!
And here's the food, which you can see Mac is oh so eager to get his teeth on. Watch what the tetras do too as Mac chomps down on the big parts of this little krill steak here, we'll call it. Boom, there's the puffer taking down the big stuff, and then look at all the tetras there. So the tetras also kind of work as a little cleaning crew for his tank. While he goes down and chomps down the big stuff, they go ahead and get all those little bitty particles that fly in the water and such, while avoiding his bite and such. And overall, they take down all those little particles that you saw earlier and kind of help keep the tank that much more neat and tidy. Also really helps out with the water parameters as well, and as you can see with their color, it's a great food source for them as well. So in the end, everybody wins. Next door to the 510 is the Queen's Castle, we'll call it. This is the fish that you see in my profile picture or YouTube picture, whatever you want to call it. This is my Fahaka puffer, Finley.
Her Royal Majesty!
While she was swimming all around earlier while I was doing the other tanks, begging for her turn, so I thought, of course now we do come to her turn, and now she just sits in her little nook over here. Good chance to look at all her color and stripes though. I mean, look at her. Is she not beautiful? There's more than one reason why we call her the queen of the fish room. And if you look in her mouth right there, look at those teeth on her too. Let me tell you, those are some very, very powerful chompers too. Here's the queen, and here's a half clam. As you can see, she's also eager to get after here. Just listen to that crunch and how powerful that bite is. She goes through that half clam shell like you and I would chips. Puffer 1, shell 0. And as cool as it is to go ahead and watch that and show that off, it's important that I give my puffers, including Finley here, Mac that you saw earlier, as well as my Amazons, that give them hard-shelled, crunchy foods similar to this. Snails, some shrimp out there, even crayfish and other crustaceans out there will also do the trick, because a lot of puffer species, freshwater and saltwater, have non-stop growing teeth that, if you don't give these hard-shelled, crunchy foods to, it can lead to all sorts of other health problems, including the problem of potentially having their teeth grow too long, hence not being able to eat right. And you can only imagine the problem of a puffer not being able to eat right, or maybe even eat at all. It doesn't need explanation, really, to why that would be a problem. Next to the Queen's current palace here, we have a 46 bow front over here, where we have some goldfish. You can see my lion head fantail right there. Beautiful he is. We also got another fantail right there. Believe that's Oranda as well there. Of course, a common comet right there. And somewhere in here also we have a calico fantail. He might be hiding back there in the behind our wood piece here somewhere. And there he is. He's hiding behind the plants, just as I said, and right by the sponge filter. Don't worry, I do promise he's alive. I did go ahead and just turn on this light here 20 minutes ago. I obviously have not recorded all these tanks just back to back to back, but yeah, just turned on this light here about 20 minutes ago. As you can see, everybody else copes with it just fine. He, on the other hand, does not. It kind of stresses him out at first when it turns on, but after a little bit of time, he'll be fine. You'll notice, unlike most of the tanks you've seen otherwise, this is one of my fake planted aquariums, because, well, I have tried live planted tanks with goldfish before, and all that ends up being is a very expensive salad bar to these goldies, and they are no exception. They, as you can see, they kind of like weaving through all this. I am very careful about which ones I pick and such. Most of these are material or like a very soft, like rubber-like deal, so as not to scratch up their scales and mess up their beautiful, beautiful coloration. Next door to the goldfish, we have a 29-gallon tank that is mostly serving as a grow-out tank to some other angelfish here. We got a pair of blue diamond platinums, well, not like a mated pair, but, you know, 2. We also got 2 young marble angels in here, as well as 2 young black angels in here. In here with them, you'll notice some tetras in here. Among those types of tetras, we got some black phantom tetras, some diamond tetras, some serpe tetras. We also got a lonely roseline shark in here, a young guy that I got from Wisconsin. His other friends were kind of rough and tough and trying to beat on some other fish, hence why they're not in this tank anymore. We'll see where they are here shortly. And honestly, these angels are pretty close to being ready to move on over to the 125, but after I move these 6 over, probably not going to be putting any more angels in that 125 here, because it is starting to be a little bit of a crowd in there, and don't want to go too crazy on there, despite, I mean, we're filtering at the high heaven, which you'll see shortly, and this one is the same boat here, and yeah, they've grown up so fast. But it's about time to move them on, and after that, I don't know, I might just keep this as a tetra tank then afterwards. Right below them is the smallest tank in the fish room. This is a 10-gallon aquarium, and you may not be able to see him too well right now because he's behind our dragon back there.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, there he is. Speaking of the dragon, he goes right between. Yes, this is the home of a red-eye red-tail puffer. Some of you will remember that, yes, I had 4 of them once upon a time. This is not one of that initial batch. Initially, my other batch was kind of getting older and not doing so well, so I ended up rehoming them to someone that has been wanting them for a while, and also could just give them a better tank than what I was able to provide at the time. But then another person that I knew had an individual puffer, the one you see now here, and they were moving. Their new place did not allow pets. And yeah, I ended up getting a red-eye red-tail puffer back in the fish room again. That's also why you only see one and not multiple like I would usually prefer. So those of you wondering, am I ever thinking of maybe adding any more puffers with our lonely red-eye here? Well, maybe, but if I do, probably not going to keep them inside this 10-gallon tank. For one red-eye puffer, I think this is a pretty good deal for him because that right there is about as big as he gets. He's about 2.5-ish inches right there. That's about all the red-eye, red-tail puffers get. So 10-gallon is plenty of space for one of them. 2, 3 of them for sure would start to get a little crowded and such. So I'd probably want to move up to like what I once upon a time did when I had my initial group. Put them back in a 20-gallon long if I did that. But right now, just sticking with this guy. They're also not the easiest puffer to find either, hence also why we have only one right now. But I don't know, maybe later on down the road here. Right now, I'm alright with just the one little guy, and it doesn't seem like he minds it too much either. He's got plenty of space to swim around here and such. He gets plenty of snails every day to keep him occupied. And, of course, the occasional visit to the front of the aquarium. Until he gets bored for me like he is now. And across the way from those two tanks is my 125-gallon angelfish community tank, which is probably one of my favorite tanks in the entire fish room. I mean, obviously, I love all my puffer tanks, but I mean, just looking at this from a distance, it never gets old just sitting here staring at the angelfish just glide through the water. And this truly is a angelfish community tank, because the main residents, as you can clearly see by the numbers, are definitely angelfish here. We also have some other fish in here. We got a couple Congo tetras in here, as well as a few black skirt longfin tetras in here. We also have the 2 more boisterous young roseline sharks in here that we got from Wisconsin here recently, a few weeks ago at this point here now. In terms of the angelfish, though, I gotta be honest, I kind of forgot the name of all the species in here. Obviously, as you can see, we got some marbles in here. We have a half black that's coming towards the front here. We also got some blue Philippines in here. We still got a couple of blue diamond platinums in here. That's one angelfish that I'm not fully certain. A lot of people think that that's a koi veiltail, if you would go to the side here. There we go. I mean, just look at his fin. Of all the angelfish in here, too, in terms of fins and such, he is probably one of the favorite ones I've ever kept. I mean, those veiltail fins are absolutely gorgeous to me. We also got some smoky veiltails in here as well, along with some, as I said earlier, regular marbles. We still got this guy here is a lavender seal point angel. That's kind of towards the side here. We got some black angels in here, as well as some black marbles in here. Actually, that's a perfect example of one of the black marbles right there, as well as some, trying to find the other one. There you are. We also got a gold angel in here as well. Think that's most of them. Otherwise, you might have seen them also running around here too. We also got some dwarf neon rainbows in here as well. A couple of them. And let's also where we put our loaches in here that we came home with from the Catfish Cataclysm. I totally forgot what these guys right here are called. I know, I've had them for 3 weeks and I already forgot what they're called. Crazy, right? But if you do remember, feel free to let me know in the comments below and educate me. Also within here, we also have a king tiger pleco hiding in here somewhere. And if you look right there by the tip end of that pleco cave and that root deal there that just moved, that is our leopard frog pleco, which I'm kind of surprised he's even letting me see that much of him, because usually he hides a lot and almost makes me forget that I even have him in here sometimes. You can see his little snout poking out of the root system there as well. Yep, we have another black ghost snipe in here. He's not quite as big as the other one. He's just shy of a foot. He's about 10.5, 11 inches. And for some reason, he loves just packing himself away inside this little tree root. And I promise, even though you may think it, because I once upon a time thought it too, he does not get stuck in there. There is actually a way for him to get out through the bottom, and of course he can get out through that little hole right there as well. So there are 2 ways for him to still get out. But other than the black ghost knife in there, we also got some petricola cats in here towards the bottom as well. That also tend to hide. Actually, there's one of them right there. Right on cue, little buddy.
Nope.
And back up he goes. As much as I do love this tank, though, it is a little bit of a weird one, because you will notice that this half of the tank is live planted with different Anubiuses as well as valves and such. As you can tell, the fish have kind of nibbled down some of my valves earlier. So I actually switched from some Italian valves and such to, some thinner leaf valves, because it looks like they tend to leave this one a little bit more alone and such. They're starting to get a little taller and such. The jungle valves, though, I think were too you know, they were too big of leaves, so they were easy to chomp on for these guys and such. But that's also why this half of the tank over here is fake planted and such, because it was looking pretty bare over there, and honestly it still kind of looks bare over there yet. I might still put a little bit more over there yet, but starting to look a little bare. Wanted to give them a little more of a natural feeling tank here with some stuff to swim through and weave through, because that to me is when angelfish look their absolute best. Next door to the awesome angelfish tank, we have a 54-gallon corner tank, and this is actually one of my 2 brackish water aquariums. You'll see one of the little guys swimming up towards the front here. This is one of my 3 figure 8 puffers in here. One of them also really likes to hide. The other one is way over here in the corner. I say there's a 3rd one in there somewhere that just is almost always hiding when I come down here, and I'm sure for as long as I have the camera, I don't expect that to change. Obviously, figure 8 puffers are one of the 2 puffers, along with green spotteds, that are commonly debated as between freshwater or a saltwater, or in this case, brackish water puffer, which technically brackish water is salty water. It's just not as high specific gravity as like what an ocean water would be. It's like that water like between, like here in America, a prime example would be like the Mississippi River flowing into the Gulf of Mexico per se. That's not where these guys are native from, of course. They're native to parts of Asia, but one example being like that. This is like a fish that lives in that little sweet spot here, and that's also why they can also live in freshwater as well as brackish water. I learned, and from other people I have learned, that for the best results, yes, brackish water does seem to give better results. Across the way, we have a 36-gallon bow front where we have 4 fish in here. That's the main one right there. That is a jewel cichlid. That is a female, and I know 100% it's female, as she has laid eggs on multiple occasions. And in here we also have a trio of giant danios, which some of you might be looking at that puzzlingly, thinking that that's a very interesting combination, and I would agree, but as you can see, she just kind of swims towards the bottom. She has no interest in taking after them, unlike every other male cichlid that I brought in here with her. She just kind of lets the 3 giant danios up here do their thing, really. And that was the whole thing. Initially, I got this jewel cichlid because I thought about maybe trying to breed them, and she had laid eggs multiple times. However, every time I put a male or other jewel cichlids in here with her, even around her normal size earlier when she was younger, she did not tolerate their presence very well. Hence why she's the only one in here. But for some reason known only to whatever force, she will tolerate giant danios. But any other jewel cichlids?
Nope.
It's quite a bummer though. I mean, look at her coloration, just the markings. She is a real pretty girl, but a very cruel mistress nonetheless. This is actually a tank though, unfortunately, I am thinking of getting rid of here soon. While the jewel cichlid is nice, as are the 3 giant danios, I am making room for some new stuff down here. And in fact, I actually should have talked about that earlier. As some of you will know, Finley over there, who of course, since we're not on her tank, she's swimming all about and around. But I mean, just look at her swim all around over there. Look how small she makes that 150 look. I mean, she is about 15.5 inches, guys, as I think I said earlier there. That's 4 feet side to side, 2 feet front to back. I mean, that's not a small tank. But that's also why, in the near future, as some of you may already know, those of you that are new to the channel may not, we are thinking about building a plywood tank for her to give her a bigger footprint. But in order to do all of that over there, we're going to have to get rid of some tanks over here. And unfortunately, this 36 bow here, as well as, I guess, my TV here and such, which I admittedly don't really use a whole lot, that'll have to move here, obviously, too. And then this stand, which was for a 90-gallon bow front that unfortunately broke, will all head out the door and make room so that eventually that 150 can go somewhere probably around this vicinity here. Then there might be another group of tanks moved over here soon, too, that we'll talk about here shortly. On to the final 4 tanks here. The next one we have is a 40-gallon breeder where I have a red dragon flower horn. So you might remember we got this beautiful guy from the Omaha Fish Swap here, which was about 4 or 5 months ago, I think, at this point. Maybe, I think it's more like 4, whatever it was. And as you can see, he's grown at least a couple inches here already. The blue markings and that red is starting to come in really beautifully. Definitely battling a little bit of algae here. As you can see, I've been battling that algae actually ever since we had Mac growing out in here. And ever since then, we've had this big, beautiful flower horn in here. And at some point, I mean, you can see his aquascape is still a little bit bare. Flower horns sometimes can be known to be clumsy, hence run into things. Hence why I've actually even debated about taking that dragon stone towards the back out there. But he kind of likes swimming between these through. That's kind of his place where he just kind of likes to chill and such. And as you can see, he also sometimes goes around the substrate and such. A little camera shy too, aren't you, buddy? Hence why he's going behind the wood. He's not fully sure what to think about us. Still, after a while, he gets used to it. He comes to the front of the glass, kind of like my puffers. Very personable fish, and as I've said here a few times, absolutely gorgeous as well. If only I could keep the algae in check, and it would look a lot better. I'm also thinking we'll probably do some more aquascaping-like stuff here in his tank here later, mostly plant-related. And if I do get rid of that dragonstone, I'll probably just put like another piece of wood in here or something. Don't want to put too much in here because I want to make sure he has plenty of open space in here, because I am thinking of seeing how long we can get away with keeping him in here. If I got to upgrade him to like a 75 or maybe a 60 breeder later. But for right now, this is his home. I also don't have a name for this flower horn. If you have a name suggestion for this flower horn, feel free to put it in the comments below. I would love to hear your suggestions. Always love seeing the followers flex their creativity. So if you got a name suggestion for this red dragon flower horn, go ahead and let me hear them. And down below that 40-gallon breeder, we have another 40-gallon breeder. This one home to more angelfish. These are angelfish that we just recently came home with from the Catfish Cataclysm in Madison, Wisconsin. We have 4 koi angelfish in here. We also got 4 marbles in here. I am thinking of actually moving one of the groups of 4 out of this tank and later on into the 240 here. We did have a koi angel in here for years and years. Never tolerated other angels, and unfortunately he is not around anymore. So to replace his absence in here, thinking at least one of the groups of 4 angelfish in here will probably get moved over here into the 240, especially once we get the silver dollars out of there. That's going to create a lot more room to make that happen. Move 5 fish and only add 4 fish. It'll add some room here, and then whatever other 4 we'll just go ahead and keep inside this 40-gallon breeder here. You'll also notice we got some bottom dwellers here. We got 3 sand tiger loaches that also sometimes like to go up, and as you see there, sometimes I wouldn't say harass the angelfish, but make themselves known as well. It's also kind of part of the reason why here in the near future I want to go ahead and get one of the 4 groups out of here, because it is a little crammed in here. The angelfish have actually had a growth spurt since I put them in here. And so have the loaches here. Thinking the loaches, we'll go ahead and try to keep them in here unless they keep messing with the angels, which in such case, well, we have some other options to put them in here. But if you guys have a suggestion of what group of 4 we should move on over here to the 240, let me know in the comments below. Which of these 4 do you want to see moved over from there to over here? Moving on to the final 2 tanks here, both of which are 75-gallon aquariums. We'll go to the top one here where we have 5 green spotted puffers swimming around up here. As you can see, they are movers and shakers. They love to zip around this tank, and they got plenty of big footprint to do so. They're also getting a little testy with each other. It's getting close to feeding time here, so they're anxious. They're excited here. But they swim all around. They love weaving through our little pirate ship here. Arrgh. Also love weaving through the barrels. They just love weaving through stuff all together here. And they have, for a while, they lived in a 20-gallon long here for freshwater for about a couple years here. And now they've been in this tank here just shy of a year here now. So this is my second brackish water aquarium in here, and just the second of 2 overall here. I've been slowly bumping up the brackish water in this thing. We're up to 1.015 in here. So little bit towards the higher end of brackish here. Still not quite marine water though. And if you get a look at their coloration and their patterns, you'll know why that this is another one of my favorite puffers. Just kind of like a lime green, almost like a greenish, lime greenish yellow on there, and those black spots to really pop with that, and their white creamy bellies. This is an absolutely beautiful puffer. They are sometimes known to be a little fin nippy with each other, hence why you see them getting a little restless here and there. That's pretty common for these 5, hence why I only also have 5 in here. Anything more and it'd be much more of a Thunderdome in here otherwise. While they do get testy with each other, it's still fun to watch them swim around, do their thing. It's also very fun to watch these 5 eat. Here we have our amazing 5 green spotted puffers anxiously awaiting their dinner. And here in my hand we have a cube of jumbo bloodworms. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it in the water here and let's watch them do work. I mean, that by itself, I mean, watching them zip around earlier I think is pretty cool, but just watching them all zip around and just tear that apart, I think that's pretty entertaining too. As you can, it's also kind of funny to watch them all fight over and just try to get away with the majority of it. In the end, they all get about an equal share in the end here. They all get fed really well. But it's also a good chance, I mean, just, again, look at those patterns. Just that limish green with the black spots. This is probably, in terms of looks and such, one of my favorite puffers out there. They are absolutely beautiful. And now it's time to scavenge the bottom for leftovers. As you can see, their bellies are all nice and round now, so they're all feeling pretty good now. They're all full. They'll settle down now. They won't bother each other so much now. But as you can see, I mean, just watching them zip all around the tank, they can still grow about another inch or 2 before their growth spurt's done. They can reach up to about 6 inches, so hence why 5 of them in the 75 here should be plenty for them. And I say, at first, I wasn't fully sure about the brackish water puffer, but I gotta tell you, these 5 little guys grew on me really quick, and they still are growing on me even more yet today. The final tank down below is our final puffer of the fish room and final tank, and that is my Cross River puffer, Hercules. Hercules here, who still likes to kind of chill towards the back here mostly when I'm up front by the tank like so. I know I just got done saying that my green spotteds have a beautiful pattern, and I said that about a lot of my puffers, but I gotta point out Hercules here, who is slowly making his way out from the plants, because look at that pattern on him. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Unlike a Fahaka, Cross River puffers are more known to have spotted-like patterns, kind of like as you see here, versus, of course, the Fahakas being known more so for having stripes. And that pattern that you see on them, or we'll see shortly, there we go, that you see on them, is a big reason why they're such a popular puffer. You'll also notice that he also does favor that sponge filter. It is getting kind of late. That's kind of where he likes to go once nighttime goes around, although he's also kind of wondering if he's going to get food. He's not fully sure what I'm doing here. Usually if I'm up by the front of the tank like this, I usually got like a half clam, some snails, or some frozen krill, something like that for him. So he's not fully sure what I'm up to here just yet, but I'm sure he's anxiously awaiting food as well. If food is what you want, I think we can deliver, buddy. And now that it's dinner time, we're feeling a lot better, and we have found the krill. Watch the puffer do his work. There we go, Hercules. We're feeling a lot better now, aren't we, buddy? He loves krill too. You'll also notice by the graveyard of half clams, he also likes those, although admittedly he's kind of lazy with those. He just kind of waits for them to thaw out even further once I put him in his tank, because I always let him thaw out before I put him in there with him and such, and he just kind of waits for the meat to slightly unattach from the shells and all that. That way he can just eat the meat with minimal chomping on the clam shells. He is a very clever fish. Hercules is pretty good size. He's about 10 inches right now. He's maybe an inch, not quite an inch or so, bigger than Mac, which won't be like that for much longer. But Cross River puffers can get about a foot again. They don't quite get as big as Fahakas. They usually say, right around a foot is where they get. Sometimes they can reach up to 14 inches in an aquarium as well. So not too much further to go. He could still get a few more inches on him yet. And while he would be fine, probably in this 75 for a while, I am thinking after we move Finley out of her 150 that you saw earlier, this 75, as well as the green spotted puffers 75 right here, are eventually also going to move to the other side of the fish room here and create room for something even bigger. As some of you will remember this 185-gallon bow front that we showed here earlier too, that may actually go here towards the middle because some of these other tanks might end up being stored away temporarily as well. Potentially make room for something really big right on this wall. But that's a little ways down the road, so we won't spoil the surprise there too much. And there you go, guys. That is all of the aquariums down here, as well as all the fish I keep down here in the fish room. Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. What's your favorite tank? What's your favorite fish that I keep here? Lots of plans coming down here, I can promise you now. As I said before, this fish room has changed a lot over the past year and a half. And over the next year and a half, 2 years, it's going to change that much more. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Really helps out my channel and against that YouTube algorithm there as well. And if you're new here and have not done so already, and maybe you like what you see, consider clicking the subscribe button as well as that little bell to stay notified with what all I do on here, posting videos such as this or even other videos. And don't forget to check out the merch as well there if that interests you. But either way, appreciate you watching this video and for all the continued support you guys give me. I will see you all in the next video, Fish Fam. As always, stay fantastic.